Welcome back to episode 3 of Jake's Takes. Today we are going to be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm here again with my friend Seth. Say hello, Seth.
Hi, Jacob and listener. How's it going?
Eyo. So like I said, today we're talking about the Bengals. I want to start off by saying thanks for listening to the Ohio State episode. I was checking. Got 21 views on YouTube. That's not a ton. You guys, don't forget, it's on Spotify as well. Spotify is better than Apple Music. Everybody should know that. It's way better.
Interesting.
Seth will disagree. And that's also on Amazon Music. Whoever uses that, I don't know who does, but it was easy to set up, so I did that. So yeah, go and listen to those, review them, check out the poll, tell us what you thought, so on and so forth. All right. So to start, I wanted to explain my fandom, why I love the Bengals. Started a little baby. Boom. I was born. Dad's a Bengals fan. Boom, I'm a Bengals fan for life. Simple as that. Essentially, he was a Bengals fan most of his life. Naturally, that goes on to me. Live in Ohio. Not going to root for the Browns. They fucking suck. Really
can I ask
suck.
why he wasn't a Browns fan? Why did you choose the Bengals over the Browns?
I actually don't know. Well, I'm pretty sure it's because he liked Boomer Esiason.
Yeah.
He grew up, I think his dad, well, technically his grandpa really liked Boomer Esiason, really liked those teams, Ken Anderson, because Bengals were actually pretty decent, 80s going into 90s, and then there was a pretty big slump until we got Palmer. But yeah, they were just big fans of those teams, and the Browns, you'd have to go back pretty far to like a guy named Jim Brown, rest in peace, for the Browns being any good. So I'm just going to assume at the time they were just a better team, and that's the team either his father got him into, or like I said, he liked Boomer Esiason a lot. So back when he won MVP, I believe in 91 or 89, I don't know when it was, one of those years, I'm a bad fan.
It's okay. I mean, teams were shifting a lot back then anyway, so with the Browns' lack of success, it's honestly shocking that they've stuck around, and not like a Houston Oilers situation,
It is shocking. I mean, I'm still shocked they're called. I don't know why I'll never understand why they're called the Browns. I don't know. The Dogs, the Bulldogs, that's a B.
Anything else,
Their
honestly.
whole thing's a dog, the Browns. I mean, you're just waiting for jokes. So yeah, like I said, come out of the womb, fan of the Bengals. Watch games every Sunday. I remember my first jersey was definitely a Carson Palmer jersey. I remember going to Kmart. Heck yeah. Dude, I miss Kmart. I remember going to Kmart, getting it. I think it was like $20. It was like one of those ones, they're screen printed, super cheap. You stick it in the washer, you stick it in the dryer, the number already starts coming off. That was my first jersey. It was pretty soon after he got drafted, before he became a piece of shit and started just talking trash about the Bengals. I remember also having a Cedric Benson jersey, also rest in peace. Amazing running back for us back in, I think we drafted him 2000. It was like 2004, and then he was with the team for quite a while. And then obviously had to have a Chad Johnson jersey. I didn't have an Ocho Cinco jersey. I had a Johnson jersey. The Ocho Cinco thing didn't last too long.
Yeah, no, that's all right though. Chad Johnson, that's still iconic.
Yeah, and then you move on. We draft. I mean, my fandom sprouted 2011 draft. We get Andy, we get AJ. They just click immediately. One of the most amazing things I've seen in football. You wouldn't expect a second-round quarterback, especially Andy Dalton, to pop off with AJ Green. The deep balls just start immediately. It's an amazing thing to watch. Also in that season, the iconic clip, the Jerome Simpson flip against the Arizona Cardinals, flipping it, doing a front flip into the end zone. End up making the wild card that year. First time, really competing without Palmer, without, like a top quarterback. And then we lose to the Texans, and then we don't need to talk about their entire wild card history because it includes a lot of losing to the Texans for some reason, and Matt Schaub. I guess Matt Schaub's just a fucking god. Yeah, I mean, I don't get. And then when I go to my first game's 2012, November 11th. It's when the NFL first started the Salute to Service campaign. I mean, you and me were just at the game Sunday. You see they break out all the hoodies. They show on the big board all the military members talking. They have them ruling the jungle up by the big throne on the field with the players coming out. I thought it was really cool how at our game they were coming out with the defensive guys. Like there was one coming out with CTB.
Yeah, it was really
cool.
cool.
Trey.
I like that.
That was awesome. So yeah, that was my
first
first
really
game.
Special.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that'd be such a cool thing to do. Next game was December 2012 against the Ravens. That was a win. We'll keep. You're gonna notice a pattern here before we transition.
Mm-hmm.
Next game, 2015 against the Chargers. That's a win. Next game, 2020 against the Jaguars. This boy's first Bengals game. A dub. Next game, the playoff game. We broke the curse. Another dub. You see, the next game, 2022 against the Falcons. Another win.
Big win. Big points. High scoring.
Yep. Big win. And then we go to the game on this past Sunday against the Houston Texans. Before we get into it, we're going to talk about you, and we're going to talk about your fandom. How did I suck you in to this hole that is defined by the Cardiac Cats?
Yeah, the Cardiac Cats is really good. So we've been friends for a long time, and I never had an NFL team that was really mine. My dad was a Packers fan, owned some stock in the Packers, still does, I think. He probably doesn't know where it is, though, so don't worry about that. But yeah, so I never really had an NFL team. I bounced around a little bit. I was like, who has the most Ohio State players? That's who I want to root for. I remember distinctly a Bengals game in which we were all watching from one of our mutual friends' houses.
Oh, no, I know where this is going.
And it's probably the most iconic moment of like the Bengals before I was a fan because it's versus the Steelers. What year is it, Jacob? 2015, 2016?
2015 wild card game. We got AJ McCarron at quarterback. Everybody knows what happened, but go on.
Yeah, there's just a very, very aggressive play that resulted in them losing the game, to be honest. And Jacob had to just take the brunt of me and our other two friends just ripping on him the rest of the night for his team's inability to keep their emotions in check. And that's kind of where it was left hanging until 2019 when Joe Burrow's killing it at LSU. I'm a Joe Burrow guy because he was an Ohio State guy and he's a local Ohio guy. He's from Athens. So I'm invested, and I'm assuming that the Bengals are going to pick him up considering the season that the Bengals are having. And I tell Jacob, look, I promise to be a Bengals fan with you if they draft Joe Burrow, and I will watch the games. I'll talk to you about the games. I'll be invested because Jacob didn't have anybody that was investing in the Bengals. And so I said, well, you know what? I'll buy now because it seems like a good time to get in. And it's been nice. First season, Joe Burrow, his leg explodes. So that wasn't great. But I remained. I said, all right, I'll stick with it. At the time, luckily, the Bengals also had a lot of Ohio State players. So it kind of was there was incentives for me to stay as well.
We had Hubbard, we had Bell, so on and so forth.
Apple, yep. Apple. So, the following season, went to my first Bengals game, the Jags game with you, an iconic night, a huge night, a comeback victory. Something I'll always remember, and that was like where it began. Truly, is like this is my team. I love this team. It really brought me into it. And I think that going to a night game helped with that. Just kind of the atmosphere of the jungle is just something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so loved that experience. Decided to keep going to games with you. Sadly, that Texans one ended in a loss, but we don't have that bad of a record. Me and you, we're 2-1 now for our Bengals games.
Yeah, we're 2-1 together. It's pretty good. I'm 6-1.
It's not bad. It's
Still
good.
Hurts my feelings. We'll get into that in a sec. But real quick, I do want to say it's fucking awesome finally having someone to talk to about that. Before it was my dad, and then he obviously passed in 21. A week before we actually went to that. Well, 2 weeks before we went to that first game, which I needed that. That was awesome having you and having TJ there.
Yeah, no, that was just a really good memory.
Was a great memory. That Nick Fearson game-winning kick, so awesome.
It was important, I feel like. And then we had the hotel that we went to afterwards. My car almost got towed. It was left on the street of Cincinnati. Was not.
Because
The
apparently
valet
our
did
nice
not
ass
valet.
hotel doesn't know what the fuck, how to valet a car, how to
They told-
how to just move it an inch and park it in the damn parking garage that's across the street.
Yeah, no, the
And you
valet
pay
did
for
not
it.
move my car. I paid for the valet. The valet did not move my car. They left it in the crosswalk with the keys in the ignition. Luckily, my
Unlocked.
car was still there
It was
in the
unlocked
morning.
the entire time.
I was driving home shaking that day, but is what it is. But also, side note, Jacob bought me my first Bengals jersey. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jacob buying me my first Bengals jersey. Originally, I just had just some Bengals merch from some Christmases. Some family members got me. But Jacob surprised me at our Falcons game with an Eli Apple jersey, who's my favorite player. Nobody else likes Eli that much or liked him that much, but I'm a ride or die. And Jacob knew that, and he got it for me and surprised me with it that morning before the game, which was really special.
I won't lie, I miss Eli. He's fun. His antics were fun. We never got that pick six we were rooting for. I remember one game it was close. I don't remember the exact game. I remember I fucking called you because I think you were driving on your way home, or you were walking down to the gas station or convenience store down the road from your place, and you were on your way back, and I was calling you and I was screaming. I was like, Seth, he was so close. He was so close. He got down to the 5-yard line. He was so close. We never got it, but we were close.
That's all right. Close. That's fine, I guess.
So many good memories. It's amazing having you here to talk with me. Really appreciate it. And just having you as a fan, having someone to text, having someone to vent to, because this team is quite frustrating. As we'll move into right now with this past week's game against the Houston Texans. You got red hot CJ Stroud. You got us coming in on a 4-game win streak. An impressive 4-game win streak where Joe Burrow shows he's Joe fucking Burrow. And it wasn't his fault, his calf. Well, I mean, is an injury a player's fault where it's him rolling out of a pocket? No, it's not. But we'll move on. He's back. He was killing it. He was slicing up defenses. We get to the Texans game. That first drive looks so good. We got that 32-yard Irwin touchdown, landed right in the bucket. We were screaming, you and me in the stands, going crazy. Before that play, you might not believe me, you can ask your brother, and you can ask Greg. I looked over to him. I said, watch this. It's going to be a touchdown. I felt it. It was like 3rd and 10. I was like, this play is going to be a touchdown. It was. I might be a genie. Probably not, but it might be.
No, I believe you, honestly. I really do. I mean,
I felt it in my loins. I knew it was going to be on that side of the field, but it was Jamar and Irwin lined up over there. I thought it was going to be Jamar. It was Irwin. Still, I'm going to count that I called it.
I'm not going to shame you for that. I think that you did.
I mean, if Zach Taylor's as predictable as he became the rest of the game, I definitely did. I don't even know what to start with, dude. It's like, I think we have to start with the defense. We have to start with the defense at this game. Non-existent, essentially. It's hard to say non-existent when in the first half they forced. You do definitely have to credit the Texans. You have to credit CJ. Insanely poised for a rookie. I mean, you haven't seen a rookie QB come in and do that since the guy that's on our sideline, Joe Burrow.
Yeah, you're right.
That much poise, you haven't seen it since then. He's great. He's slinging it. In this game, though, I'll give him credit for that last week against the Saints. He played incredible. He actually, slid some nice throws. I swear you're going to debate me on this by not giving them any credit. It's just our defense was not... It was like it wasn't there. We had no one on the field. They were just able to do what they want. We were sitting there. I don't know how many times throughout the game.
Right. I think what really it boils down to when you look at it is CJ just wasn't feeling much pressure from the pass rush, so he was just able to kind of do what he wanted to do, which sucks. But you can't do much about that. You know what I mean? We got injured players. We're coming off a hot streak. And they met us at a hot streak. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, hell, CJ's got higher projected numbers on even fantasy football than like Joe Burrow. You know, like he's a rookie.
I mean, people are like, he's the MVP. People are saying he's the MVP. It could be the first, or I think the second rookie quarterback ever to win MVP.
Which is crazy considering how much his draft stock dropped coming into the draft, which could have been intentional, who's to say, but it's interesting.
Because that fucking whatever quiz that they give all the quarterbacks. He's like, I don't do school, I do football. No, I'm kidding. That's a dumbed down version of what he said, but that's what people were saying. Okay. But, yeah. I mean, you're right. All your points are valid. I'm going to get into the main thing with the defense that pissed me off. Lou ran such base, like it felt so basic. It didn't feel like later on we're going to mention, like in a summary of the defense. He's called the mad scientist. Where was that guy? He was nowhere.
You're right. No, it felt very basic. It felt like he was like, well, I don't have the players that I really need, so we're just going to run basically a college defense at that rate. You know, that's what it kind of felt like.
Yes.
Like I was at the Ohio State game the night before, and the Ohio State defense maybe looked better than the Bengals defense. You know, it's different, but you know, like there's just more creativity. You know,
I would, totally agree with that. It's hard to shit on them when in the first half they do get 2 fumble recoveries and 2 turnovers.
Yep.
And then the offense does nothing with them. I mean, you keep hearing me sigh. It's just so frustrating looking back on. Like, after the game when we were walking out, I was like, oh, that was a fun game. You know, it stinks we lost. But now looking back on it and thinking of specific plays, how often people were wide open. I mean, Sam was injured, so that's our second best pass rusher gone. Cheeto's been coming back from the ACL. He's been a bit slower. We're going to highlight Nick Scott, who, we get it, Nick, you can hit hard. You got to cover people. You're a fucking safety.
Yep.
Your job is to not let the big plays happen, not let the scramble plays happen. You and Dax. Dax did his job. I think, multiple plays where Dax had to fucking come all the way across the field in the hall. Just make sure receiver didn't get the ball. But so many times on either play action or scramble drill, CJ Stroud found fucking Noah Brown, ex-Ohio State player, ex-Ohio State player, former Cowboy. He's great. He's extremely tall. He's pretty athletic. He's bounced around the league, though. So many third downs, scramble drills. He just found him. He was just there, wide open. Wide open.
I think, if I had to guess, I think that, like, this is just my conjecture, but I think that going into this game, the Bengals defense might have looked at this Houston team and been like, they're beat up. All their weapons are beat up except for CJ. It'll be a pretty easy game. We just have to make sure we contain, like, any scrambling or the run. And then he was nailing passes, so we're like, all right, let's cover the guys. And then CJ runs a touchdown in, because we're too busy focusing on him making a pass because he's slicing and dicing, you know. So I think that maybe we were a little bit humbled, honestly. I think that maybe it's a good thing for the Bengals to lose in this fashion. You know what I mean?
I would hope so. Yep. The thing about you're right. The game plan coming in should have been no big plays, stop the pass at all costs. And it seemed like that's what it was going to be. Well, no big plays, stop the run at all costs, so they only have the pass, is what I meant to say. Because they only have the pass. Devin Singletary is, at best, a number 2 running back in this league. He's AFC Offensive Player of the Week. They just announced that a couple hours ago. AFC Offensive Player of the Week, 150 rush yards, 11 receiving yards, a touchdown. He's not supposed to do that. He was slicing and dicing us. I swear the only one on that D-line that was awake was DJ Reader. And sometimes BJ Hill. But we were getting sliced and diced every facet of their offense, except for the plays we made, the 3 turnovers, and the one DJ Hill. Or no, not DJ Hill. Whoops. DJ Turner. Speaking of which, I don't know if you knew this, DJ stands for Juan Drago, which is pretty fucking sick. That's so sick. His pass breakup to get us the ball one more time to go down and get that field goal. I mean, during that game, like, we weren't sitting next to each other, but I know I shot you multiple looks, just basically like Jim faces from The Office. Every time one of those plays would happen, you could tell I was pissed off. How were you feeling in those moments every time one of those happened? Every time one of those plays happened?
Yeah, so it's hard. It's really hard for me because I'm somebody that always believed in CJ, and so like seeing him succeed was exciting, but it was devastating, because I just feel like the Bengals, we just were a little discombobulated on both sides of the ball, and whether that be personnel missing, or honestly, I this is more of a collegiate term, and I'm more of a collegiate guy. But this is a trap game. This is a classic trap game. Think about the game next week with the Ravens. I mean, that's like Thursday night game, huge game, important division rival. They're leading the division still, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, by 2 games.
Yeah, so it's a must win. For honestly, it's a must win to even get a wild card. We just need to kind of get in there. So can we fault our guys for really looking ahead? Mate, I don't know if we can, because it's a good Ravens team.
I mean, you can fault them because you're not supposed to do that, but every team does do that. Every team does look ahead at the next game. You look at the Texans, they just had the number 2 and they trade up to the number 3 pick. You're like, oh. And then the story came out, their injury report, they had 24 players on it. This team was definitely looking ahead. No one will admit it, but they were definitely looking ahead to this Ravens game, which is extremely important. It's huge. I mean, like you said, the wild card it's still definitely going to be possible after this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're 0 and are we 0? No, we're 0 and 2 in the division. Or are we 0 and 3? 0 and 3.
We lost to all 3 of the division people in our first games with them.
Well, we haven't played Pittsburgh yet.
Wasn't that the second game of the season?
Was it? Am I losing my mind? Am I blanking already? No, it was Ravens. It was Browns, Ravens, Rams, Titans. Yeah.
Really? We haven't played the Steelers? Well, all right. I feel much better then. I thought we already played.
I'm looking at it right now. We haven't played. We play Pittsburgh next week after the Baltimore game.
Wow. All right. Well, that's important.
You had me thinking I was going crazy. I forgot.
No, you're good. Game. You're good. I was crazy.
No, but that Ravens game super important. The team was definitely looking ahead. No one on that team will admit it. I don't fault them for that, but no one will admit it. We could talk about the offense a little bit. It's kind of same old story when you're talking about the Bengals offense. Besides the Niners and the Bills games, they get snagged. They get extremely stagnant. And this time Joe wasn't there to save us. He actually struggled a little bit. He credited, in his post-game, he credited their pass rush. He credited just their coaching. D'Amico Ryans, former 49ers defensive coordinator. He's an amazing defensive coach.
Mm-hmm.
Joe threw, his first pick was, I'll credit the Texans on that. It's still bad throw by Joe. That second one was just killer. That
second one
picked off in the end zone. You kind of felt like the game was over. The energy sucked out of the stadium.
It's the second that defender kneeled down, because that showed such game sense by that defender that he didn't try to run it. Didn't try, you know what I mean? He just really was and now we have the ball. It was open shut. There was no chance for us to get maybe a fumble on him messing up the, the return. So it sucked the energy out of the stadium on that one.
Yeah, and the thing that was good about the game, if you were in person, would have been still frustrating watching on TV. It was 20-7 at one point. We brought it all the way back, got it to 27-27. Obviously couldn't finish the job. Kind of the crux of it, that basically summarized the whole day. And in a way, people say we didn't deserve to win. I mean, if you win the game, you deserve to win. That's how that works. You won the game. There's no such thing as deserving a win. I hate that phrase, honestly. But that play right before they go and kick the field goal, we have them wrapped up. It would have probably been a 48-yarder, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was DJ Turner. Just the guy gets let go, runs for 15 more yards to get basically a chip shot. Tackling this season has been a low point, big time.
They really struggled to tackle him there, and it was tough. It was tough to watch in person because you thought the play was dead. You thought he didn't even get the line to gain. I don't think he was right behind it. It would have been short. He was infield. The clock would have had to keep running unless the Texans used the timeout. So it sucks. It really, really sucks.
Yeah. We can move on and talk about the team as a whole in a sec. But first, I do want to highlight one thing that was good. Well, not one, two things. I want to point out two players. Joe Mixon this season has been great. He's back.
Yeah.
Please run the ball more, Zach. Please. Stop with the little flat routes. I know they're built into every play. It's how football works. You always got to have checkdowns. Joe's the one who decides to throw them. It's a read. But God, they're so annoying to watch.
Maybe some more pitch plays, you know?
No. Okay, we can talk about that. I hate the pitch play. I hate screens. This team does not know how to run them. I don't know if it's the offensive line. I don't know if it's the running back. I don't know if it's Joe. I don't know. It's probably Zach. No offense, Zach. People do hate on Zach a lot. People need to chill. I used to be the same way. I've changed. You can just ask Seth. We had a bet. If we won the Super Bowl, my gamer pitcher would be Zach Taylor for a year on Xbox. We didn't obviously win. Don't need to get into that.
It's a complex thing, and honestly, it's what I've observed. I'm not a big NFL guy, but I think that maybe Zach is being a little bit too predictable in the scenarios that he's using those plays, or our personnel are giving it away right, like in pre-snap, you know, because they get blown up pretty. Like, you know, there's clearly something that defenses are seeing on film that they know when to dial up the pressure for a pitch or for a screen pass.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the second person I want to shout out later. Brad Robbins had a great game punting-wise. His best game punting-wise so far.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it wasn't the best game, but I guess that is the chance for a punter.
That is something to shout out. Do you have anybody that stands out before we move on to the team as a whole?
I'm a little worried about the injuries. You know, I saw Cam Taylor-Britt come out of the game at one point.
It was a finger injury. He came back in, and he's good. I don't remember I don't know if it's sprain or if it's just like a nerve thing, but the injury report, he's good to go for tomorrow.
I hate T. Higgins being hurt. I feel like that hurts his ability to negotiate with the Bengals, which then leads to him being unhappy with the Bengals. And I don't want to lose T at the end of the day. Like, I really think that he's like a really good weapon.
T's incredible. T is incredible. So we could talk about it right now. We already talked about the Ravens game multiple times. The injury report came out about 5 minutes before we started recording. Trey, who hyperextended his knee. Dude's a fucking beast. He's a monster. He didn't practice Monday. He was a full practice participant today. He's playing tomorrow against the Ravens. Crazy. T and Sam are out again, which was kind of expected. People thought maybe Sam, but that's just way too quick of a turnaround. The shocker on here is Yoshi. Andrei Yoshvash. He's out. He hasn't practiced all week. His knee's hurt. Watching that game, I didn't see a moment where his knee must have gotten hurt, but he also didn't practice all week, so it must have happened during the game. Maybe this is just precautionary, so it doesn't get worse, but that is worrisome, considering, I mean, if we're being honest, Joe didn't throw to him basically at all the entire game that we watched, which is kind of a bummer. I was looking forward to it. There was a deep pass that people shared a clip of on Twitter that Joe could have thrown, but he threw the check down instead. We'll move on. The thing that is good about this injury report, Charlie Jones will be back, so that gives us more explosion at punt returner and another guy to have in that receiver room, especially since Yoshi is out.
Yeah. It's interesting. I know Yoshi hasn't been a huge target for Joe, but he hasn't really needed to because we have such depth out wide receiver. But he has made some plays. You know, I think that it's very, they talk about a lot on the national media, but Yoshi loves to, once they think the play is dead, he just somehow shows up and like loses his defender, you know, which is nice. You know, it shows some creativity. I just hope that it is, I just hope that there's not any, future issues, I guess, with our wide receiver room, because Trent Irwin can only do so much, you know?
I mean, dude, for a wide receiver, he might be the best wide receiver in the league. He might be the best.
I think that's fair, actually.
When it comes to Yoshi, I mean, for him being a 6th-rounder, having 2 touchdowns, they're both on scramble drills, Joe trusts him clearly. Doesn't trust him as much as some other guys. Joe trusts him. That's huge for a 6th-rounder who was basically seen as a project, just a great athlete. He's lived up to more than expectations. You expect a 6th-rounder just to be a special teams guy, but he's actually getting minutes on the offense.
That's true.
Yeah, so the team as a whole. We'll look at the offense real quick. The offense, so once Joe was back to being Joe, which started in the Seahawks game, I think started in the Seahawks game, we thought we'd be fine. And we were fine for 3 straight games. We won all those games. When he's not fine, though, the offense gets... Well, when he's... I don't know how to word this. When he gets slightly uncomfortable, the offense sputters. I don't know if it's him being uncomfortable. I don't know if it's Zach and Brian Callahan being uncomfortable with the scenario. What do you think is the reason our offense gets so stagnant?
Yeah, I think that it comes from... It's weird. I think that we are just, like... now that Joe's healthy, there's this weird duality that the coaching staff has to deal with where we want to keep Joe healthy, because he's our dude. And he struggled in the first half of the season when he was injured, so we don't want that to repeat again. But also, we're relying on him as the playmaker, as the sole playmaker on the team. Like, with Higgins gone, with Chase being a little bit injured, it's on Joe. Every play is on Joe. And I think that, a philosophy switch is in order for this team because, yeah, we are a pass-first team. But as you mentioned earlier, Joe Mixon is tearing it up right now. And I know that we drafted a new running back. Like I just feel like we have not explored the running back room as much as we need to, especially this late in the season. And maybe that's why some of these injuries are popping up. Maybe that's why we feel a little bit stagnant. It's because it feels like we're locked into these 3rd and longs when, honestly, we could just pound the rock. We could just every single game, like, just grind it out if we had to, Yeah,
we're locked into 3rd and long so often. It's so frustrating. I swear it's more than any other team. I actually think I saw a stat about that. You brought up the running back room. Our room right now is Mixon, Williams, Chase Brown, Chris Evans. That's a bad running back room. Objectively bad running back room. Everybody has had moments like Evans in the past game. Henderson. Whoops. Almost slipped up because Travion, Ohio State. Travion Williams, Bengals. Williams has had moments. He's had a couple good kick returns. Like we already said, Mixon's been great. And then Chase Brown he's a 5th rounder, but he's essentially done nothing. It's fine. He's a rookie. He's had injuries. But before the season, I said this team needs to draft a running back high. I remember I was talking about Zach Charbonnet. I was talking about Jahmyr Gibbs. I was talking about Tajay Spears. Their drafting this before the season was somewhat horrendous. In a way, it didn't target the positions they need, which a draft isn't supposedly... Like, you're not supposed to go need in the draft. You're supposed to go talent. You want the... You know how I felt about the Myles Murphy pick. I wanted Michael Mayer right there. Didn't happen.
It makes sense. Yeah.
But, I'm getting off topic, but the running back room is clearly not good enough. It's not good enough. I don't know what you can do about it. I think we're kind of stuck with it this season. But even though it's not good enough, Joe Mixon is good enough to the point where this offense can be much more balanced and he should be getting at least 20 touches a game. At least.
I agree. And I think that the Bengals shouldn't be afraid of exploring maybe some alternatives with the running back option. Maybe hand the ball off to Jamar, maybe like use some of these wide receivers that have that speed. Just hand him the ball. Take a little note of Ohio State's book. And I know that's not it's completely different positions. Yeah, there's a learning curve. But if we feel so limited with Joe Mixon, which we aren't, but if they're trying to protect Joe Mixon by not running him all the time, then we got to do something, Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard in this current record that we have what adjustments you make, because what adjustments you make now is really just going to define the rest of your season.
Yeah, we already kind of talked about the wide receiver room because, man, it's all banged up. Obviously, Jamar's number one. He's even banged up, but I think he did the most he could in the Texans game. like we watched. I mean, that touchdown was amazing from him to Joe. I mean, Brian Callahan, I think it was about 2.5 weeks ago, quote, "There needs to be more production on this offense in general for guys not named Jamar Chase. At the end of the day, we're not scoring enough. We're not producing enough." We thought the receiving troubles were kind of fixed once Joe got back, but then T goes down. TB has had a little drop spell.
A little bit, yeah.
Is Irwin.
Yeah.
He's a wide receiver 4. He's great and all. Yoshi now hurt. Charlie Jones coming back from injury. It's tough in the wide receiver room because it all basically depends on Joe. It's who Joe trusts, who Joe needs. Along with the wide receiver room, we might as well talk about the tight end room right now, which has gotten better now that they decided, hey, this Tanner Hudson guy that we've just been hogging on the practice squad is pretty good. I mean, you throw the ball to a guy that's from the practice squad 5 straight times on the opening drive. He's pretty good. Drew Sample, one of the worst second-round picks in NFL history, but he's had moments this season where he's been pretty good. I'll admit it. He's a great run blocker as well. And then Mitchell Wilcox, he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
So once again, that's more receiving. Honestly, if we're looking at it, if you're accounting for injury, the best receivers on our team are an injured Chase, Boyd, who has had a drop spell, wide receiver 4 Irwin, and practice squad Tanner Hudson.
The drop spell for Boyd, I don't know. I don't know if I'd even label it as that because I just feel like with all the weapons being injured, like he's just seeing more targets at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's going to be more drops.
Yeah,
you know?
You're definitely right. I'm definitely overstating it. It was just that one frustrating drop, which people shouldn't hammer him for because he's the one who got us down there anyway. That 64-yard catch and run got us in that position anyway. He's been an amazing guy his entire career, amazing at catching the ball. It's just tough when you're in those scenarios with those injuries. You hope that guy, that veteran, can make that play. And when he doesn't, it is a bit disappointing. But you can also look back and understand it and understand the reason why it may have occurred.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then we'll move on to what everybody talks to when it comes to the Bengals, the offensive line. I think it's been good this season. It's been good, not great. It's been the best it's been since Joe's been a Bengal, mostly because of Orlando Brown. But something that is weird about this season when it comes... Jonah's also been really good at right tackle. Like, that's incredible that a guy who's played left tackle pretty much all of his career can make that switch and have this good of a season. It's weird because last year, the middle 3, Karras, even Volson a little bit, and Kappa were the strength. This year, they're the weakness, especially Kappa, who was the best offensive lineman we had last year and was an amazing value signing. He's really struggled this year. I'm not sure why. I don't know if he still has issues with this core injury that he had. I think it was a core injury. I don't know. But that middle 3 has been the struggle this year. The tackles have been fine. The tackles have been good enough. They've been above average at most points. The middle 3, the center, left guard, right guard, have been struggling. What have been your views on the offensive line so far?
I mean, honestly, I didn't have high hopes because I felt like we could have made more moves towards a better offensive line for Joe. But that being said, I mean, they've been working with what the offense has been given them. You know what I mean? Like they're doing well with with most of the pass protection. They're doing really good with the run game. Obviously, it was hard for them to start this season with Joe being injured. They're working their asses off extra because Joe's not under center. It's going to be a shit. Like they're going to have to block every down.
Yeah.
They're going to have to work their asses off. And I think that maybe we're seeing some signs of that now. Like maybe that's like why they've struggled because they're just a little bit fatigued. I don't know.
But you'd hope not because the bye week just happened. That's one part where you'd hope not. And you're totally right about those first 4 weeks. The plays were so based on shotgun runs, keeping Joe upright any way possible. And it feels like that's how every season's started since we've had Joe. It's just making sure he's not getting hammered every play.
Yeah, I mean I think that's exactly accurate. So maybe it's just an adjustment thing now. Maybe that's why Cap is a little bit struggling, is because first 4 weeks he spent being told that like Joe's not going to run. You know what I mean? Joe's not going to run out. Like Joe's not going to call an audible where he's going to do a QB rush. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's just an adjustment thing, and it's just taken a few weeks to kind of catch up to it.
Yeah, you're totally right. When it comes to the team, though, basically what's been the brightest point, except for this week, has been the defense. We'll talk about Lou. As I said, he's called the mad scientist. He's been great up until this past game, which we've already talked about, so we'll kind of avoid talking about that. But he's been amazing at mixing things up, not allowing the big play. The defensive strategy has been great. I mean, there's been so many guys who have stood out. I mean, what's been the major change about this defense? It feels like we're getting way more turnovers, which last season didn't feel like we were getting that many. I think it's because our secondary is quicker, it's younger. But but that's also kind of a crux since we don't have Bates and Bell. And we have been banged up. What have you thought about the defense so far in general?
Yeah, I mean, the defense has been something that they've been highlighting. Like, the first 4 weeks when Joe was hurt, everybody was giving our defense a lot of praise as kind of like the unsung heroes of the Bengals, because they were keeping us in games for the most part. But, once again, you can only do so much, as a defense before, that, like, if the offense isn't producing, what are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? It's just interesting to see kind of the turnovers increase, because part of me worries that, like, if that's what we only rely on, then what is our season going to end up as if we don't keep getting those big turnovers, big plays? You know what I mean? Like, if we're so reliant on a pick late in the game so that Joe gets a shot to go out there and finish it, like, how many are you going to win? 30% of your games? 40? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that they could be a little bit better at tackling, as you mentioned. I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, the weak part has been the fundamentals. It's been the tackling. It's been the missed assignments. It's been stuff like that. When you look at... I don't even know how to word this. When you look at how they have been able to rest, I think is the best way to word it. How they've been able to, not rest, essentially, because the offense was so stagnant, except for the past 3 weeks. They've been out on the field over and over and over and over and over. So it's like, thank God they got a turnover, because if you're out on the field over and over and over and over, the other team's going to score eventually. You're going to get worn out. You're going to get worn down. They've put up such a good fight in most of those scenarios. If we're looking at week 1 and week 4 where we get blown out, even then they still had turnovers where we had chances. It's just the offense wasn't there. When it comes to, you're right, we definitely are kind of relying on that turnover thing a bit too much, especially when it comes to what's been the crux of the defense the past few years is just the pass rush. It's only Hendrickson, and sometimes it's Mike Hilton. And then Hubbard. Hubbard's naturally just an overall good player who has gotten better at the pass rush because Hendrickson's been there. But we brought Hendrickson in. He's been the number one guy. But still, these players, these young guys that we've drafted, haven't been living up to what we need in the pass rush department. It's Trey, and then it's whoever we blitz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you actually made a really good point there. Like, they are getting these big picks, and they are getting these turnovers, but then Joe goes 3 and out. You know what I mean? Like, then they're back on the field, and, like, they're just working. They're just working a little bit too hard, I feel like, for it being only this far into the season. I guess we are pretty into it, but, like, really, they have been kicking ass, and, like, the offense has kind of taken a back seat, and then the offense started to get going, and now we're kind of seeing the offense regress a little bit. So
Yeah.
I hope that that's not a pattern that we're seeing. I
Yeah.
guess.
But when it comes to them overall, my overall thoughts, I think they'll be fine. I think they will be fine.
Yeah.
I think they'll still be there. It just depends on how much rest they get, matchup wise, and injuries. Those are like the three main things. Like the Texans shouldn't have been a tough matchup, but they were because they were essentially overlooked by us. Speaking of Hendrickson, he's got the third highest pass rush win rate according to PFF, which is Pro Football Focus, which is overrated. But when it comes to the stat, it's a decent stat.
That's like a very niche stat. Yeah.
Yeah, Myles Garrett's number one. Nick Bosa number two. Trey is number three, which is very impressive. You think it'd be like Micah Parsons, someone like that.
Yeah.
I think the previous year's Trey's been around 7. So starting off this season, he's been amazing at pass rush win rate, and the sacks have been there for the most part. He's had so many sacks that have been taken away by penalties on the back end too. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
He should have like 12 right now, but he only has, I think, 8.5.
Yeah, I mean, that's also something to note is, defensively, we didn't really pick up a pass rusher, but that's because, honestly, we don't need to. I think that he's kind of an unsung hero in the NFL. Third, and like, how often do you hear him mentioned with Nick Bosa and, who's number one? Sorry, it was
Myles Garrett.
Yeah, obviously, Myles is getting all the praise in the world because, it's due. I mean, the dude is a superhuman, but like, hello, our boy's there. He's third. He's just 2 places behind, and I don't hear anything. Honestly, I'm sometimes I get Hendrickson and Hubbard mixed up because their last names are the same. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like
yeah,
it's
he doesn't get enough credit for how great he is. Especially like even back on the Saints, it was all like, oh, it's because Cam Jordan's there. That's why his rush. Oh, Davenport's there. That's why his numbers are going up. And then we get him, and then he's like our sole guy, and he's still not talked about. But when you look at players that need to step up overall, it's a lot of the draft picks from the past years. I think Zach Carter is the biggest guy to point out. First of all, he shouldn't have been the pick. He's not a third-round guy.
I almost said who when you said Zach.
Exactly. Number 95, for anyone that needs to know, Zach Carter from Florida. He's not a 3-tech. They drafted him to try to be a 3-tech because he's athletic. There were plenty of other guys that would have been better to draft there. He has been underwhelming. Who else could we say? I think Cam Sample's been pretty good, but not good enough. But then again, he's also a later draft pick. Osai has been very underwhelming. Very, very underwhelming. Where it thought everybody saw him in that preseason game a couple years ago against the Bucs and went, oh my God, and then he tears his ACL. And then we haven't seen much since besides that preseason game, and then you see him getting that late hit on Mahomes in the AFC Championship last year.
Yeah.
So the D-line overall, just that depth, it's just not there. You look on the back end, it's getting there, which is good. But those guys still need, like, DJ Turner has been a huge bright spot for a second rounder. He's been a bright spot. Dax has been a bright spot. Nick Scott needs to step the fuck up. I don't even want to talk about him. He frustrates me so much. It's like the only thing he's there to do is hit guys hard. It's not your job. You're not even in the box that often. The guys in the secondary who haven't been on this team multiple years, and the draft picks that are supposed to be D-line depth are the positions that need to step up on this team.
Yeah, and do you think, I'm just curious because you're more of an NFL guy, do you think that it just takes more time for positions like that to develop versus, like you take the wide receiver in the first or second round and that he's pretty much like, that's because he's one of the best, you know what I mean? So do you think that it just takes a little bit more time for these, especially defensive players to kind of develop?
I would agree with that. Yeah, for that standpoint, for sure. Especially if you're, I'd say maybe not safeties. I'd say corners for sure. It takes a bit of time. I mean, except for Cam. Cam came in and was killing it. Defensive ends, it definitely takes time. That's why people shouldn't be out on Myles Murphy yet, because there's still a chance he should be good, even though I didn't think he should have been the pick. He needs to add more to his repertoire. Right now, it's his bull rush, and it's his strength and athleticism that he's using. He has no
Right,
extra
but everybody's strong and
moves.
athletic
Yeah,
in the NFL.
but
Yeah.
that's definitely a point. But because of what this team has done, they haven't provided that extra depth. Those guys need to not progress faster. They just need to show up more often
Yeah.
with
That makes
their skills that they already have.
sense.
Because they're not just going to, like, Zach Carter's not going to be a guy who is just busting through the line anymore, but you expect him to at least be good against the run and at least hold his ground. When you look at Nick Scott, which he's an older guy, but for example, in the past he's been pretty good in coverage. This year it seems like he's regressed a lot. When you look at, let's see who's next. When you look at DJ Turner, he's been good. It's because he's just using his God-given skills, not his NFL-based, what he's learned skills. He's just using his amazing speed, amazing ball tracking. So yeah, just use the skills that you have right now and provide for a team that is trying to win a Super Bowl. Don't put as much pressure on the guys to be not who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense, and I think that maybe it's maybe it's just Lou feeling it out a little bit, but like also Lou might not be around next year, so like that doesn't make me feel super confident. But we'll see. That's just being scared of the future at that rate.
Yeah, I can feel that. I mean, he should be a head coach for sure. At least given that chance. He's a great coach, great leader. Let's move on to special teams, run by Darren Simmons. I already mentioned Robbins earlier. He just had his best punting game, in my opinion. The first few weeks, it looked like, oh my God, we chose the wrong guy. Why did we waste a pick on this guy? I mean, but it's not really a waste of a pick when it's that late. But it's like, there were other punters there. Why did we pick this one? But he's getting there. He's definitely getting there. He looks like he could be our guy for the future. His hang time and distance together have gotten a lot better. Before, it was just the hang time is where he had it early in the year. He didn't really have the distance. Now he's getting a better mix overall. Obviously, you don't like to punt that often if you're a good team and you're a team that has Joe Burrow and you don't care that much, or you shouldn't care that much about a punter. But when you punted as much as we had this season, besides the few weeks where Joe's been lighting it up, it's something you definitely notice. What have you thought about Robbins so far?
Punting is something that either you notice how bad it is or you notice how good it is.
That's a great point.
Like you either like that's a biffed punt or that's an amazing punt, or you're just like, okay, now our defense is on the field. Let's see if we can get a stop. You know what I mean? So it goes a little bit unnoticed for the most part for me personally, but I mean, I have no complaints. You know what I mean? As long as you're not botching every punt attempt, truly. Like, I do not have a complaint about a punter. I think that pinning somebody within the 5-yard line is super, super, super important. But how many safeties do we see every year in the NFL? Not many. Like NFL teams are able to get out of that position. So, it's just more about making them drive the field, which, so I think I'm overall impressed. I'm content. Yeah,
and then we could talk about McPherson. McPherson's been good. He's been up to. He's had some great long kicks. He's had some errors he normally doesn't make, but since his rookie year where we made the run to the Super Bowl, he's been at least like an 85, like a 90% guy, which is good enough. He's not to the point where it's like, oh, you need to worry about it, but you'd still hope like, oh, where 50-yarder his rookie year was a chip shot. Now you're like, is he going to make it for sure? I still have that belief and he will.
No, but I feel you on that. I feel like you don't want a Brown situation where you're letting go of the person you drafted as a kid.
That kick, like that's crazy what they did to Cade York.
That's insane, and that's front office at that rate. But I would love to see. This is something that we haven't seen. I feel like since that Super Bowl run, is just Zach being like, yeah, I trust my guy. You know what I mean? Like, I trust Legosaurus to kick a kick.
Legosaurus.
I trust Shooter to hit a 60-yarder. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he has the potential on a good day. And if we're at a 3-and-out position, why not let him rip? Our defense is strong.
I,
Let him kick that ball and just try. I don't know. I just feel like there's been a little bit of loss of faith in him, and maybe it's just a loss of faith in kickers across the league, perhaps.
yeah,
Um, but at the end of the day, especially in those early games this season, we couldn't rely on Joe. So
yeah.
I don't know why we didn't maybe, say, hey, McPherson, it's like, you got this. You know what I mean?
I totally agree. I almost bought a McPherson jersey the other day, and then I was like, I'm gonna go no jersey this season. I'm gonna wait.
Did you buy a jersey or no?
I
Did
did
you
not.
not
I'm
buy?
going no jersey this season.
Wow.
It's a hard
Okay.
choice, but I think I'm
No,
gonna go
that's
no jersey this season. I'm just gonna rock some gear.
we'll see where they draft. You know what I mean? Maybe if they
Yeah.
draft somebody that you like a lot, maybe like Emeka Ibuka, maybe they're not going to draft Emeka Ibuka. I'm joking.
I mean,
I'd love to get the draft picks later, but we got to talk about this season still.
yeah. We'll throw that in at the end. We'll talk about the future. Let's move on to real quick. I'll just speak on the return game. You don't have to necessarily, but the return game's been good when Charlie Jones has been there. The return game's been good for Travion. It's not they're not letting many people return. Like, that's just a trend around the league this year, and the new kickoff rules. Returning kicks isn't what it used to be. It doesn't really matter as much unless you have that one guy. We don't have that guy at kick return. We do have that guy at punt return.
Yeah.
But we can move on. I wanted to check out the upcoming schedule. So we mentioned multiple times the Ravens. We'll just do like short points on each of these. Ravens must win. Obviously, we haven't won in the division yet. I said 2 games. I think it's actually a game and a half because of some stupid tiebreaker. We've already discussed them quite a bit. You said it's must win. I think it's must win. We both agree on that. Week 12, we got the Steelers, another must win. I think that one will be, obviously it's a division game, so you never know. You don't want to call things, which, I mean, also you think all division games are must win from this point because we've lost 2 of them. But
I will say, though, the Steelers, I see what you're kind of leaning in towards a little bit here, that maybe that's the easier one of the 2, which I think, yes. But the Steelers are heating up a little bit, They got some wins. Matt Canada's on the field, and that's working for him.
Oh my
so
fucking God, dude. Matt Canada.
The good news, I know, but he's winning. You know what I mean? That's the thing, is as soon as they made the move from him in the booth to on the field, they started winning. I think that the good news for us Bengals is that we see the pattern of how they're winning now, and we can kind of try to counter that a little bit.
I mean, the entire year it's been winning through their defense. Last week it looked like they actually had an offense.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. They don't have an offense. They've just been winning through their defense. TJ Watt's been fucking incredible.
He's insane.
He's so good. So annoying to have him in the division. Yeah. But Pittsburgh, must-win game. Should be a bit easier on the defense. It'll be very hard on our offense once again. The next game, Monday Night Football against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a great team this year. Their defense is great. Trevor Lawrence is great. Travis Etienne is so good. People don't talk about Travis Etienne enough. Their wide receiver core, I think Calvin Ridley's great. He hasn't really lived up to it stat-wise. But when he gets that ball in open field, he's great. Do you have any thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I mean, they're killing it. It's not the same team that we watched, 2 years ago and watched Urban Meyer lose. You know what I mean? Like, this is
we watched the end of Urban Meyer.
I think that they're. I don't want to speak too soon. I'm gonna knock on some wood here, but I feel like they might have peaked a little bit too early in the season. But we'll see. I feel like they're a good team. They're not a team to like overlook at all. I think the Colts you might be able to overlook a little bit, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that next game against the Colts. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's back. Excuse the dog if you hear it, listener. He always does that. He's been like that all 9 years of his life. Bark, 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 bark. Yeah, the Colts for sure. All you got to worry about really is Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Minshew he's good. He's a good backup. He's fun to watch. Their defense has been not great. That should be more of you can call it a trap game like the Texans game, but the Texans are actually good. But that game should be an easy win. Minnesota, Josh Dobbs has been killing it.
I think that it's actually good we're facing Minnesota then.
Yeah.
Because it feels a little bit like Josh Dobbs is doing really well now. It's because defenses don't know how to prep for him because they only have tape from Arizona.
Yeah.
But with him getting into the Viking system, we will have much more tape by the time we face him. So that'll feel better.
For sure. I mean, with the Vikings, you don't have to worry about the run game. You just have to worry about the pass game. Well, you have to worry
That's true.
about
They're on to like
Dobbs
their 16th
scrambling.
running back.
Yeah, you have to worry about Dobbs scrambling, which we already faced Dobbs this year.
That's true. I forgot that we faced.
I almost
oh,
forgot that
wow.
game. That just popped in my head. We already faced that. So we know Dobbs, and we know what he. Yeah, we just have to worry about his scrambling, and then you have to worry about Justin Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson. Their defense
Addison.
Jordan Addison, too. I almost forgot. That's a great. Good, thanks for bringing that up.
I've got him on fantasy. That's why I remembered.
Yeah, he's so quick. Well,
he's quick.
Kirk was injured for them. People need to quit hating on Kirk Cousins. He's a good quarterback, guys. Stop.
I think with the injury, I think that he's really the public eye has been much kinder to him since he's been injured because we're like it was like starting to turn around. Everybody's like, oh wow, Kirk Cousins is actually and he's out for the season. Wow, that he doesn't deserve that. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the sentiment across the league. It seems
he's good, guys. Quit hating on him. He's good. Next game, Pittsburgh again. Same points on Pittsburgh.
Who knows what that looks like by then?
Who knows? I mean, we'll be more healthy. They'll be more healthy. Kenny will be healthier for them. That'll probably be actually a really good game. Ooh, it's a Saturday game. We haven't had one of those in a long time. That'll be fun. We got the Chiefs on New Year's Eve. We're 2-1 against them. That's always a great game. Even when you thought, like, when you look at last year, when you look at the Super Bowl year and last year's games where we played them, they're always close. Even though we've looked bad at times in them, and they've also looked bad at moments. That's just what happens when two amazing teams face each other. I mean, you'll definitely like to win that game depending on where standings are. Like, hopefully by then we'll know for sure where our seeding will be, or if we even need to worry about playoff seeding. So a win against that team that late in the season, you can call that a must-win just because of seeding. Like, we already got the win against Buffalo. That's huge because Buffalo's been struggling. They probably won't win their division because of Miami, and they also just fired their offensive coordinator. But what do you think about the Chiefs?
I was going to say, I think that these how close these games have been really kind of speaks to, and nobody talks about it much at all. Obviously, star quarterback head-to-head, decent Chiefs defense versus our defense, who's pretty good and lose really good. But I don't think that Zach Taylor gets enough appreciation, Zach is in a coaching battle, a chess match against one of the best coaches of all time.
Yeah, I love Big Red.
And he's been successful. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, did he lose one last year? Yes. But, like, come on. Like, he keeps it competitive. You know what I mean? And so I think that you don't see that a lot. You look at the Bills and they struggle. They're struggling right now to do anything. And is that on the head coach? Maybe not. But, like, somebody's, making a culture there. Zach has made a culture at the Bengals. And I think that, when he goes head to head with the big teams, you see that. I think it really shines through on those big games.
Yeah, the culture that Zach's built has been incredible. It's a real family atmosphere. You can tell all those guys do care about each other. People say, "Oh, we're a family. We care about each other. We hang out all the time." When I actually see stuff, like when I watch the interviews, they've been doing a new segment, videos each week. You actually see that those guys do care about each other and they hang out, and that's great for on-field chemistry.
Yeah,
Zach's done. That's one thing. Like, you can't, if you say anything about Zach Taylor, that's bad. You can call his play calling doo-doo. You can call, I don't know, you can say he's not assertive enough. He is an amazing leader of men. And, I mean, that's evident. Week 18, Browns. That's just, it's going to be a bloodbath. There's no Deshaun. He just got announced out for the rest of the season. Thank God. Fuck that guy. Piece of shit. Someone hit him with a car. I know I shouldn't be saying that. I know I might be going a little bit too far. I don't know what my professor will think about that when he hears this.
I just think he's got his check. He's good to go. I think he's just out, Like I think it's just the biggest blunder in sports history. It might go down as by the Browns front office to pay him all that money guaranteed. It's just it blows my. I hate Browns games as the last game of the season. I feel like it's such a it's last year was just a backup game. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
then Browns fans are like, "Oh, we won, we own the Bengals,"
Yeah,
but
they
then
always
they're
talk
just
about
like,
their record against the Bengals, which has a little merit. They got our number for sure. They got our
absolutely,
number, but they need to not include the games where Joe Burrow doesn't fucking play because his leg was blown up, or the games where we rest because, oh, we're about to make a run to the motherfucking AFC Championship or a run to the motherfucking Super Bowl. What are you doing? Oh, you're sitting on your couch.
yeah. I mean, that's what it boils down to. I feel like is maybe they are ramping up for these individual games, but guess what? They aren't producing outside of that for the most part. I know that this year's been a pretty good year, but if I'm looking at my calendar correctly, we are about in the "it's all over" phase of the Browns, which actually this morning some of my Browns friends who sent the Deshaun Watson news over. Um, Immediately we're like, our season's over. Why us? This sucks. It's always us. In fact, the comment was made. Let me find it really quickly because they immediately started talking about the Bengals without me saying a word.
Of course. I
They
love
said,
messing with those guys. They hate when I mess with them about Deshaun Watson.
let's see. They said, oh, well, first of all, there was a claim by Browns fans saying that the Ravens played dirty, and that's the thing. And they said that maybe the Bengals will get a better record than us now. Only took us losing our QB, running back, and starting tackles.
Mm.
And I, fired back with a maybe draft a good quarterback. But
Boom.
at the end of the day, Browns fans are going to complain they're the victim of the NFL every year. And you know what? If that's where they want to be, that's fine. I'm content with that because I'm confident that Joey B will win a Super Bowl before Myles Garrett wins a Super Bowl because they're going to have to sell Myles Garrett because they won't be able to afford him here in a few years because he's a beast.
He won't want to fucking. I hope you'd think he wouldn't want to play there anymore. Jesus
No, he's
Christ.
going to want a ring. You're right. You're right, Jacob. At a certain point, Myles Garrett's like, I've broken all these records defensively. Where's my ring? And he's going to go out. Maybe he takes a pay cut and goes to somewhere like the Chiefs. Maybe he goes to the Bengals. I don't think he will go to the
I don't.
Bengals,
No, no,
but
no. We wouldn't have the money for that because we got to pay fucking Jamar $1 bajillion after this season too.
keep your eye out. If I had to guess, if I was a betting man, I would say that he lands somewhere in the NFC, probably like probably this is years down the line, but maybe like the Seahawks or something like that will pick him up because they need something to rival the 49ers and their duo that they have over there with Chase Young and Nick Bosa.
You and your Ohio State boys. You and your
Look,
guys.
you can say that, but they produce. All
They
right,
do. They
they
do.
produce.
Well, Nick does. Chase has been injured.
He's hanging around.
He's there.
Now
Number 2 pick.
real quick.
He's got a good coach now.
Brief aside on Chase Young. He's no longer the focal point of the defense, so I really
Yeah.
think he's got some really a platform to show off some skills. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe. But he is a number 2 pick, so you're drafted to be that guy, the main point of the defense.
You're right. That's
But
fair.
we move on. Once again, Pro Football Focus sometimes is crappy, but other websites have also ranked this. We have the second toughest, or we have the toughest schedule remaining. That was about a couple weeks ago. I assume it's still about there. If not, it's still top 5. Yeah, so it's gonna be a real tough progress. Ravens will likely win the division. I think we can admit that now. Ravens will probably win the division. We will be a wild card. We will be one of those 3 seeds. We just gotta hope it's the higher of the ones, so we're not facing the best team in the first round.
Yeah, I'm actually curious, Jacob. Do you feel comfortable with this team being a little bit of the underdog? Do you think that that's a good
Yes.
narrative for us to have?
I mean, I don't care if it's a narrative. Like, what was the narrative when we were going to the Super Bowl?
It was the under like that entire postseason
It was
the underdog.
that
narrative.
entire thing. I can't remember what they always said. The team always said, "Whoa, why not us? Why not us?"
Why not
We kept saying that over and over. And then Joe said he fucking hated that. So I'm gonna say I like that as a fan looking at it. I'm sure the team likes it underneath, but hopefully they don't need to come out and say it. Hopefully that's just motivation for them inside the locker room.
I think I think it's really interesting though. I think the Bengals, even after the loss to the Texans, we aren't hearing the Bengals suck. We're hearing the CJ and the Texans are good. Like CJ's carrying the Texans to victory,
Yeah.
which is great. I love that. And we're still, I feel like, a little bit respected as like one of the big 3 or 4
I mean, we should
in
be.
yeah
2 AFC
yeah
championships, 1 Super Bowl appearance. Joe Burrow is top 2 quarterback in the NFL. We should be up there respected. I mean, this doesn't matter. Colin Cowherd had us number 5 in his rankings. Oh, what a guy. He sure knows a lot about football, doesn't he? No, he knows nothing. He's just a pundit. We can we'll move on from the schedule now. I had this man, I keep saying that's like my thing.
I didn't even notice it.
Okay. All right.
Don't hear it.
When it comes to the trade deadline, I made this a few weeks ago, so that was going to be a main point of this. I didn't know when we were going to record this, but we didn't do anything. That's pretty predictable. I thought we could have attacked tight end, maybe defensive tackle, running back. We didn't do anything. We don't even need to mention specific names. Just, I made a note here. I put, we didn't make any trades. Ha ha. That's about it from a Bengals fan. We didn't make any trades. Ha ha. When it comes, what's up?
I was just gonna say that I think that honestly, maybe this year more than ever, that was kind of the general sentiment. Is there wasn't a lot of massive trades that, like, like it wasn't. There was no Christian McCaffrey trade, all right? And I think that that's what people like look for is like, where is this? Like, why didn't we trade and get? I don't know. I can't think of a good tight end off the top of my head.
Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, like why didn't we trade?
Because he's basically the second tight end in New England. Yeah. We should have had him this offseason.
Right. Like, I think that maybe the front office is like, yeah, we messed up by not picking up a tight end in the draft. Let's fix that on this next draft. You know what I mean? And maybe they're thinking a little bit more holistically. And they don't want to lose things. Like, they don't want to trade T. It's clear that they don't want to trade T. For now, at least. We'll see how this injury affects things, but and they could have gotten a lot for T. I think that that's worth mentioning. Like, I mean, we could have, like, he's got a high price tag, and a few of our guys
definitely at least like one first round pick for sure, but he's definitely a first rounder and a third rounder, if not 2 first rounders. He's that type of guy.
Yeah.
So in the rankings, so the division right now is, I'm just throwing this out there, the Ravens 7-3, Steelers 6-3, Browns 6-3, and we're 5-4. We've had our bye already, so we played we're a bit behind on some teams when it comes to rankings. So I'm not going to go through the other divisions or the playoff seeding yet. I mean, it's only going to be, I think it's going to be week 10, week 11, something like that. Week 11, yeah. You seem to want to talk about the future a little bit. I'm totally down to do that if you still got some time.
I've got some time, yeah.
All right. So you mentioned Mr. Emeka Egbuka, and you said based on my opinions in previous drafts, I probably wouldn't like that pick. You're wrong.
Really?
I would be good with that pick this coming year. I mean, TB, expiring contract, T, who knows if we can afford him. If you're looking at it, a wide receiver might be our number 1 need going into a draft and a free agency. Egbuka would probably be there that late in the draft. It's an option.
Today too, for the record. I don't think he will, but also the idea of him getting to be wide receiver 1 with Marvin leaving, it could be tempting to him, honestly, because he has been a little injured this year.
Yeah, you also talk about Travion. We're dipping it back a bit into the Ohio State podcast. Speaking of that, listen to it. It's a great episode. I let my boy here lead on that one because he's Mr. Ohio State. It's a great listen. Besides the last 10 minutes where his AirPods decide to shit at their pants. No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking. Yeah, so Travion, you joked about that.
CBS released 4 hours ago.
Ooh, what?
CBS released 4 hours ago a mock draft with the Bengals picking Emeka Egbuka, actually, which is very funny.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you speak about Travion, too. At that point, the way he's been playing for Ohio State, I wouldn't mind that pick. We need more offensively besides Joe and Jamar. Based on next season, I mean, at this point, I'm doubting we're going to have T. Hope we can maybe get TB to re-sign just because he's a veteran. He'll get a lot of calls for sure in free agency. But we also drafted Charlie Jones to kind of be his replacement. He just hasn't been able to really prove it this year because he's been injured. But either way, this team as a whole, we're gonna be there. As long as Joe's our quarterback, we will be there.
can I run this scenario by you really quickly?
Go for it.
Bengals do well. We get far into the playoffs. Maybe we even make a Super Bowl appearance. Who's to say? We get to the draft time. Emeka's gone. Marvin's gone. A lot of good wide receivers. What's his face from Georgia? The Brock Bowers is gone. The tight end room is getting scarce. How do you feel about a Cade Stover pick?
If it was in the second round, yes.
Wow, not a first round talent. Okay. It's okay. No, it's okay. I mean, he's a little bit of a. I hear you.
The only thing with him, he's great at running over. I just think he's not the most athletic guy for a first round tight end. You like a bunch of
you're looking for a giant. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
But he's a second round guy, even early second round guy. Like if we were to trade up and get him in the second round, I'd take that. But if we're based on how this season's gone, say we win a playoff game and that's it. So we're in the picks 25 through 27, something around there. I think that might be a tad too early, but it also depends who comes out in the draft. You never know. Like if certain guys don't come out, he could be there. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't be fully against it.
Okay.
I would not be fully against it. But when it comes to the Bengals, is there anything else you want to mention? I guess what we didn't do, I had a note here. Any standout guys from the whole season? We mentioned standout guys from the Texans game, but any guys that have stood out to you as, oh wow.
Yeah, I think that two people that I really think make our defense special and really just maybe it's from a fan aspect, maybe it's from just a playmaking aspect, but two people that really make me feel hopeful.
I know one. It's Cam.
Who?
It's Cam.
Yeah, Cam Taylor-Britt definitely has that energy. He's got that swagger, and he also has the playmaking ability to back it. You know what I mean? And I love that. I think he's a positive guy. I think he's a great addition for being so young to be on that secondary. You know what I mean? To talk to people, to when we draft new guys, he's there.
He's so fucking good, dude. It's kind of
really
crazy. I didn't expect Well, looking at the draft last year. I mean, a lot of people had us mocked taking him in the second. Some people even had us mocked taking him in the first. And I was like, this guy he played at, I'm pretty sure it was Nebraska. It's not that strong of a school. There's no way I could have predicted him developing this fast and being this good of an NFL corner so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. My other guy is Mr. Jermaine Pratt. I just feel like he's a baller. He's a baller, dude. He goes out there, he makes the plays, and he always is making big plays. You just always see him involved in, the big third and 3 and outs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You see him get a fumble. You see him, tip a pass and pick it. You know what I mean? I just feel like he's a playmaker. I think that he is almost I don't know if this is true or not, but he feels like very much a leader of that defense, a voice in the room. So that keeps me hopeful for our team, I feel like.
Yeah, Pratt's been great. I still can't believe that we got Pratt and Logan this offseason. I totally thought Pratt was gone. I think I even told you that a million times. I was like, no way we get Pratt too. But I guess, people are crazy to not. We signed him to such a great contract. We have that linebacker duo for another 3 years at least.
That's crazy.
It's just nice to have something like that not to worry about. When it comes to guys that are standing out for me, let me think. Because I already mentioned a few guys. If I had to look directly at the defense, Dax has been really good. They've mostly been playing him just deep. He's just been the deep safety mostly. He's had a couple blitzes where he's done a great job, but mostly a deep safety. He's just been reliable. He's what you've expected as a Jesse Bates replacement. And that's all you need. The guy, though, that I always text you about whenever something happens is little man. He probably does not like being called that. Mike Hilton.
Love Mike. I love Mike Hilton.
Mike's blitzing off the edge. Mike swatting down passes. Mike, he's just so fun to watch, man.
I guarantee that offensive coordinators just have a headache when they look at the tape and look at Mike Hilton, just because he's so quick and so unnoticeable. If I'm a quarterback and I'm making adjustments, I will overlook him legitimately. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, there's a guy kind of on my edge. he's going to fall back into coverage probably. And then suddenly your running back is eating the dirt because he jumped the entire line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's impressive. Some veteran status, honestly.
Yeah. Before we go, I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but this past week against the Texans, we barely went under center.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we stopped doing that. It worked so well against the Bills, worked extremely well against the Niners. I don't know if there's something with Joe this week. I don't know if it's something they saw on film, but they need to get back to it. Under center, it worked so well against the Seahawks, worked so well against the Niners, worked so well in this point where Joe's been healthy again. I mean, I get it. Shotgun, you like to space everything out. It just needs to be an aspect of the offense. It needs to be there. This team has not been a good play action team since we drafted Joe, mostly because the offensive line has not been great. I think it's good enough to where it's good enough.
Yeah, one question,
please.
One question for you. Do you think that maybe our offense kind of looked at the tape and said, "Wow, we were doing really good at this. They're going to be ready for that as Houston, like facing Houston, so we should switch it up a little bit." But then that, didn't work. Like that just didn't. It just wasn't as, like not going under center just wasn't as like we tried to be unpredictable, but we ended up just being predictable.
That's always a possibility. But you think when you're to the point where you're getting thrashed and your offense isn't working, you'd still go back to those things. Like you'd go back to what does work. But you're totally right. So. They could have seen something. I mean, obviously, I'm not the most. I mean, I actually didn't mention this. I played football from 4th grade to 8th grade.
It's important to mention.
We both played. Seth played too.
I played up until 5th grade. There was a career-ending injury. Tragic. Jacob heard the noise of my screams.
It's very scary.
Live an infamy in his head.
Biggest motherfucker laying on his leg. This guy
was
not a 6th grader, dude.
2 biggest linemen on the team. And I was the smallest person on the team.
Was it Brower and Hickman?
It was Brower and Hickman in an Oklahoma drill.
Just Hickman.
No, Brower, Hickman, and then I think Justin Brown might have been on the other side of that.
Jesus
and I was asked to take the ball and run it, and I ran it, and just 2 giant men landed on my foot and broke it.
I mean, you were a little guy back then. You were a really little guy.
Very small.
Number 21, right?
Yeah, and that coach is probably burning in hell for doing that. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. Jesus Christ. I think we can end it there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Rest in peace to that coach. We'll just leave it at that. So Seth,
anyway, thank you for having me on, Jacob.
Yeah,
I
thanks for
appreciate
joining me, Seth. Thank you for being here. I love talking to you. I love you, man. Let's play some games later. Actually, you go enjoy it. Well, not games later tonight. You go enjoy your PS5.
I will.
That your amazing lady got for you.
It's amazing. I'm excited.
Amazing. As always, Hoo Day.
Hoo Day.
And we'll talk to you again soon.